okay? It's here. And then sometimes I will choose a word that applies to me. So I took that reason to go to the Chinese restaurant for lunch yesterday and get some fortune cookies, which I use all the time. And these were great. I like them. Your golden opportunity is coming shortly. Your smile always brightens the cloudiest days. Your fortune is as sweet as you. Your family is one of nature's masterpieces. I mean, who gets 4 of those in one day? And I didn't pay extra, so that was just a bonus, okay? But because this was environmental, I kind of wanted it to be about that. And it says, the end is near and it's all your fault. And I guess I didn't realize how sick I was at the time. Service is the rent we pay for living on this planet. 2 days from now, tomorrow will be yesterday, and use your talents for that's what they're intended for. But these are me trying to tie it in. Again, these are straight, there's an occasional skew one, and they tie together. And this is a loose painting, this is an uptight one. They don't all have to be the same. You could take different techniques that you want to use, and you don't have to feel. I think that the one thing that has to be consistent is the shadows. So if you had to set up a light and figure out how the light works, and the shadows are consistent, you can bring it through. These ones, shadows don't have to be the same as that photograph shadows, as that one shadows. They can be completely different, but how they fit on the background, they all have to be the same. So in this case, we had a little bit of a thing about the environmental, I guess. This one here, I don't think that's going to go there. I think it's going to go. There, that's good, that's good. This is a little one I did a number of years ago, and this is meant to be about Minneapolis, and I have a cardinal and a picture of downtown Minneapolis and the Hiawatha train line, and the sign says, "Be kind." I'm not trying to tick anybody off, but be kind, it wouldn't hurt. And putting it down here, I said it, be kind. And sometimes my husband and I can look at each other and say, be kind. But anyhow.
Well, case in point about seeing something beyond the picture, the one in the lower right-hand corner, yeah, that's a good example of that. That's partial. Once you see the rest of it, but you can't, obviously. And so you go beyond that picture.
Now, funny thing happened, and one of it was just being cheap, okay? So then I thought I would tell you, and it kind of helped that Jan fell today trying to unload the car. We've got 2 paintings here, because so often I think we forget that color is important. And so I got 2 different paintings, both with a different color. So there's this one here, and this painting, which is essentially the same thing. I'll just hold it up in the back for you. So it's essentially the same thing. You'll notice that talking about things running off the edge of the page, I shouldn't even admit to this.
It's too dark.
Too dark.
I went out to Dick Plick to get that framed, and it's a double elephant's framing. Cost an arm and a leg. I had a 50%.
What?
There's the light shining on it, tilted forward.
That's okay.
Area.
I had a 50% off coupon, and with a single mat and a regular frame, it was $900 for frame.
Are you kidding?
I nearly died. So I went to the thrift store and I bought it for 15.
Yeah.
And that's why I ended up, and that is why I cut off pictures more than I intended to cut them off.
Okay.
Because I just couldn't bring myself to doing that.
Oh, no.
Artist's choice.
Yeah, artist's choice.
Yeah.
You know artist's choice?
No,
Oh.
is it,
You gotta go
They give
there.
artists wholesale.
Stephanie.
okay, give me that number. Because
I think I got a card on me.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Oops. No, what you'll see is that painting, is that, can you hold it for a little bit? You okay?
Yeah, no, they
Okay.
said it was glaring.
That painting is about me. And I did it because, for one, the bottom background, I chose that one because my mom said she named me right, Sandy, because I liked sand. So that sand is because my name's Sandy. That little girl is me as a 3-year-old. That is because my daughter went away and I have an empty home. That little white bird is because my son joined the army. This is in Port Nala, where we went, Nancy. That is my home. One of my really good friends. There's, what's that island up there? No, that Superior, Lake Superior. Are they all there? That's from my front tree, my garden, and some of the rocks I picked up in Wales. So it's not just for the heck of it. I'm painting it because it's the story of my life. And so when you come in and you choose a subject, it's deciding what I'm going to put into it. So I've got pretty much the same things in this picture down here. Okay, you can set that down, thank you. But that one, I decided to go with that one because it was sandy, not sea. So it could be, okay, so I'm going to start a little bit on the next part of the show because I will show you some painting. I know I'm not, since I had this thing go with my head, I have hardly painted, so we'll see how that works. So when you look at this here, in this particular page, is it the right one? Let's see. Okay, that's, no, where is it? There we are. Yeah, there we are, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, somewhere. Long story short about this, I was setting this up, and I'm kind of picky about what pencil eraser you use, okay? And you're not meant to use just any pencil. Da Vinci paint. So the only exception I have is that the quinacridone gold is made by Winsor Newton. So I've got Vinciana, Winsor Newton's quinacridone gold. The yellow is usually like a dark one. I don't like the real light ones. It could be tends not to be a cadmium. What is that, New Gamboge?
New Gamboge,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
The orange tends to be vermilion. The reason I say main is intended to be, I've been trying these different paints because of wet paint, but I think they're wrong. And then black is black. Indigo. I feel a little embarrassed to tell you that I have indigo, but I like it. This is phthalo blue. And then permanent rose deep. And the interesting thing about the phthalo blue, I was at the Minnesota Watercolor Society meeting, and there was David Rickert. He was the president, and he was talking about phthalo blue and all the different colors, and he kept on saying phthalo blue, it's a lovely warm blue. And Marion Alstead was in the back of the room, and she said, "That fool, doesn't she know it's not a warm color, it's a cool color?" I don't know. I just like phthalo blue. I don't know if it's warm blue or cold blue, but to me it's got a green tone, so I think it's a cooler one. Now, I haven't worked any more on this because I do have another one kind of ready to go. So this is the same pattern that I had here. And instead of yellow, which was going to be sand, I've gone ahead and I filled in some color. I haven't finished it. But what you're going to notice is there's some little rocks in the background. Now those little rocks might
Closer
be...
to you.
Closer to me, okay. Now those little rocks might need to be finished, and they also need to be explained to you, because when I go down to Missouri, I can't help myself. I got to pick up rocks with holes in. So all of these rocks have holes in. Now, my 9-year-old granddaughter knows the truth of this, because if you hold up a rock and you look right through it, you can see fairies. So that's really important. Now what we're going to do is, and I'll just do a little bit, I tend not to have a particular color. It's somewhere in there. And this color, I've only got 8 colors and I don't use the blacks. I'm down to 7. Somewhere in there I'll get the color I want. And it's about light and dark. Now you're going to see some of these a little greener and darker. And you can see as I put a little more detail, I can start doing that negative painting. Remember, any of you who've taken that class where we do rocks? And you can see those rocks coming out there, and by putting a little color in between, you can get detail. And you can keep working at this for hours. But I hate when after, 3 weeks or something, somebody tells you you've gone too far. So you've got to decide when enough is enough. Now, one of the things you've got to realize is a background like this is not something, okay, let's rephrase that because it sounds rude. When you do a painting and you've got your flower or your tree or your car or whatever, and at the end you say, what color background should I put in? That's not it. The background is important as the painting. You can't throw it in afterwards. It has to be a decision. So in this particular case, I've shown a bunch of different colors, and by working away, you can see I'm building up color. Now if you look over on this side, I haven't got here yet. This is just an uneven background, and there's water runs, there's blue, there's sienna, there's a water run, all the things that might be considered a failure, that you're not keeping it smooth. It's suddenly becoming an asset because it's becoming part of what you want your painting to be. Now, what you might not notice is that the paper is not all white. There's a lot of color on these already, because depending on if you buy Kilimanjaro or Arches or the new Arches, or you go to one of these different places, they all have a slightly different color. You go into a different journal, each one's a little different. So that one has got a touch of blue in it, it's got a little green on it. Can you see the slight difference? It's very subtle. And this one's got a little bit of yellow in it. Now if I put a couple of marks like this, it actually implies that I've got one of my pages like this that have holes. And it's perfectly acceptable to include them. Another little thing that's kind of mental, but when over here I've got a brush that I know I'm going to leave it on. And it's these lovely brushes that I love. And you don't have to make them any bigger or anything. You just take a pencil and draw around it. And then when you've got it painted, and I was talking to Frank that he's not a person who paints detail like me right now. But when I'm painting and I try and get rid of that thing in the way and I don't move and I realize it's my painting, then I know I've accomplished. So we often have that in there.
Can you tell us what kind of brushes those are?
These particular ones, you know, I got them from a weird guy out in Vermont, and it's called the Holbein. And they are just gorgeous. They come as, I got it by accident because this one lady who was visiting me, ordered, and then she got moved out to Fargo, and the thing came, and so I kept them. She hadn't paid, and then she turned out to be my best friend. I kept a paintbrush, and I couldn't believe it, but anyhow. So you can see on this side here, I'm beginning to get a little bit more detail than just a background. And I'm just mixing these colors to get something that separates out. I don't like to use just green, pink, orange, purple, whatever. I like to mix it so that when they dry out, the colors separate out. You've got the blue and the brown or whatever there. So as I go deeper and deeper, the areas I paint are getting darker and smaller. Now, if I make it too complicated, what's going to happen is it's going to be a little bit hard to cast a nice even shadow. This is going to be a complicated shadow. Now, I am using quite a large brush. I read in an article once that if you've got a brush that you feel comfortable with, you should actually want to have 2 sizes larger. Because if you are too comfortable, you're going to end up using that one hair brush like this. I got them too, you know, but when it's never going to work. I land up with a brush in my hand, and I will use it, but if I start with this one, I'll get a different kind of picture than if I start with this one. And so that's also a reminder which brush I should be using. So one thing that you can use is if you've got something there and it's not quite exactly right, you just lift a little of that color, just to knock it back. That's a little more usable. I'm beginning to like that. Now these are just kind of floating on the page, but I want to just look at something else. On this page here, this is more of an more of a uptight. How can I get abstract and uptight confused? Not good. So instead of a loose one, this is a little tighter one. And you can see I've gone with a blue background. And it's pretty much carried this over. I've got things going off the page, and I've done the balance. And I've planned what I want. There is a degree of color that's in here that's changed a little bit. I'm not quite liking some of these things. I want to show you what I did on this one, which is similar, same shape. But I decided to make sand. And I've started it on this side, can you see? So again, it's that time, oh, put that tiny brush away. Let's get something medium. To go in here and start building layers. And you could spend weeks doing